मग आता काय करायचं? दिवाळी फ्रेंडचं करायचं का दुसरं काही करायचं? दिवाळी हा ना? हो. आवडलं.
हा चांगला होता. आपल्यापेक्षा बरा वाटला मला त्याचा.
हो.
वडा वगैरे क्रिस्पी होता चांगला.
मग वडा आपल्याला कसं नाही.
मला कसं असं माहित नाही पण मला बरा
मागवायला आवडतं का?
वाटला.
Mansi, can you
चोचोच.
mute yourself?
So you can mute me actually. Sorry, I was not aware. You're the host now. You can mute me.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll start reading chapter 9 today, Choosing Happiness. Anybody would like to go ahead? Today we'd like to finish this chapter. Yeah. So anyone
Yeah,
would
Mansi.
like to take up?
I may start, yes.
Yeah.
Choosing happiness. Designing a career and a life requires not only that you have lots of options and good alternatives, as we have discussed, it also requires the ability to make good choices and live into those choices with confidence, which means you accept them and don't second guess yourself. Regardless of where you have started, what stage of life and career you are in, how great or dire. Yeah, scroll please. How great or dire you perceive your circumstances to be. We would bet our last dollar that there is one goal you all have in this life you are designing: happiness. Who doesn't want to be happy? We want to be happy, and we want our students to be happy, and we want you to be happy. In life design, being happy means you choose happiness. Choosing happiness doesn't mean you should click your heels together 3 times while wishing to go to your happy place. The secret to happiness in life design isn't making the right choice, it is learning to choose well. You can do all the work of life design, ideating and prototyping and taking action, all leading to some really cool alternative life design plans. But this doesn't guarantee you will be happy and get what you want. Maybe you will end up happy and getting what you want, and maybe you won't. We say maybe because being happy and getting what you want are not about future risks or unknowns or whether you picked the right alternatives. It's about how you choose and how you live your choices once they are made. All of your hard work can be undone by poor choosing, not so much by making the wrong choice that is risk, but frankly, not a big one, and usually one you can recover from as by thinking wrongly about your choosing. Adopting a good, healthy, smart life design choosing process is critical to a happy outcome. Many people are using a choosing model that cuts themselves off from their most important insights and actually prevents them from being happy with their choices after they have been made. We see it all the time, and studies agree. Many people guarantee an unhappy outcome by how they approach this all important design step of choosing. Dysfunctional belief: to be happy, I have to make the right choice. Reframe: there is no right choice, only good choosing. On the flip side, choosing well almost guarantees a happy and life-giving outcome while setting you up for more options and a better future. The life design choosing process. In life design, the choosing process has 4 steps. First, you gather and create some options. Then you narrow down your list to your top alternatives. Then you finally choose, and then last but not the least, you agonize over that choice. Agonize over whether you have done the right thing. In fact, we encourage you to spend countless hours, days, months, or even decades agonizing. Just kidding. People can waste years agonizing over the choices they have made, but agonizing is a time suck. Of course, we don't want you to agonize, and that is not the fourth step in the life design choosing process. The fourth step in the process is to let go of our unnecessary options and move on, embracing our choice fully so that we can get the most from it. We need to understand each of these choosing steps to appreciate the important difference between good choosing, which results in reliably happy outcomes and more future prospects, and bad choosing, which preconditions us for an unhappy experience. Step 1: Gather and create options. Gathering and creating options is what we have been discussing throughout this book. Having good insights about yourself, exploring options about where to engage with the world, and prototyping experiences are the ways that your life design process generate ideas, alternatives, and viable options that you can pursue, all pursued, of course, with a curious mindset in which you are looking for latent wonderfulness and approached with a bias to action versus overthinking. We won't spend any more time on option generation here, other than to tell you again to write your work view and life view to create mind maps. Do your 3 Odyssey plan alternatives and prototype conversations and experiences. You can use these option generating tools for any area of your life. Step 2: Narrow down the list. Some people feel they don't have enough or any options. Other people and most designers feel they have got too many. If you have got too few, then go back to all those suggestions we have already made. Step 1: and invest the time needed to cultivate more ideas and options. It may take weeks or months to build up a list you really like, which is just fine. After all, it is your life we are designing here, and this is not going to happen overnight. Now, once you have got a hefty list of options, chances are that you are struggling with all the possibilities. You look over all your ideas and all the suggestions other people have given you, and all the things you could possibly do with your life, and it can feel overwhelming. You find yourself unable to choose, or at least unable to choose with confidence. So, you figure you have done something wrong. You must not have done enough homework and understood your options well enough. If only I had better information and a clear picture of these options, I would know which one to choose. And off you go to do more research, interviewing, and prototyping. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work because even though not having enough information is sometimes a real problem, it is usually not the core issue. By by the time most of us are getting close to an important decision, we have done our homework. We may not know everything there is to know. In fact, all our investigating actually makes clearer to us what we don't know than what we do know. So we are pretty sure more research would be helpful. But that is not it. If you are like most of us, then the reason your choosing process is stuck isn't about your knowledge. It is about the length of your list and your relationship with all those options. We can most easily make this point clear by looking at how people buy jam. Professor Sheena Iyengar from the Columbia Business School is a psychoeconomist who specializes in decision making. Her famous jam study was done using specialty jams in a grocery store. One week, the researchers set up a table in the store showing off 6 different specialty jams with snazzy flavors like kiwi orange, strawberry lavender. You get the idea. Then they watched how the shoppers behaved, who stopped to look, and of those who stopped, who actually bought some jam. The first week, with 6 jams on display, 40% of the shoppers stopped to check out the 6 gems, and about a third of them bought one, about 13% of the shoppers. A few weeks later, in the same store with the same time frame, the researchers came back with 24 gems. This time, 60% of the shoppers in the store stopped by a 50% increase over the 6 gem display. But with 24 gems on display, only 3% of the shoppers bought one. What does this research tell us? First, that we love having options. Wow, 24 gems. Let's check this out. And second, that we can't deal with too many of them. So many, can't decide. Let's go get some cheese. In fact, most minds can choose effectively between only 3 to 5 options. If we are faced with more than that, our ability to make a choice begins to wane. Many more than that, and our ability to choose completely freezes. It is just the way our brains are wired. We are attracted to having alternatives, and our modern culture almost idolizes options for their own sake. Get loads of options. Keep your options open. Don't get locked in. We hear this sort of thinking all the time, and it seems to make sense, but there absolutely can be too much of this good option thing. When you toss in the internet and the fact that we can now be made aware of seemingly every idea and activity on the planet after a sub-second Google search, most of us are suffering a pandemic attack of too many options. The key is to reframe your idea of options by realizing that if you have too many options, you actually have none at all. If you get frozen in front of your daunting list of possibilities, then in fact you have no options. Remember that options only actually create value in your life when they are chosen and realized. We often teach our students that when an option grows up, it becomes a choice. So when you have got 24 jam options, you actually have zero options. Once you understand that in choice making, 24 equals zero. And boy, is it hard to believe when you love your options and worked so hard to find and come up with them, then you are free to take the next step, narrowing down. So what exactly do you do with too many options? Simple, get rid of some. First, if it turns out that a lot of your options group together into categories, you can break your list down into smaller sublists that may help you to get to your top contender for each option type. But eventually, you will be in that overwhelmed by too many options place and have to get rid of a bunch of those gems. How? Just cross them off your list. If you have got a list of 12 options, cross out 7, then rewrite your list with just the remaining 5 on it and go to step 3. Most of our students and clients freak out at this idea. You can't just cross options off. What if I cross out the wrong one? We understand, but we are not kidding. You just cross them off. Remember, if you have got too many options, you really don't have any. So you have got nothing to lose, and you won't cross off the wrong one. We call this the pizza Chinese effect. We have all experienced it. Ed sticks his head in your office and says, "Hey Paula, we are going out for lunch. Want come?" Sure. We are choosing between pizza and Chinese food. Got a preference? Nah, whatever is good. Okay, we are getting pizza. No, wait, I want Chinese. In that situation, when you gave your first answer, whatever good, you thought you meant it. You didn't know that you had a preference until an unwanted decision occurred as a fait accompli. Only after the choice was named did you become aware of your preference. So you really can't lose when you are shortening your list of options. If you cross out the wrong ones, you will know afterward. You may have to go as far as crossing out 7 of the 12 and rewriting that new clean list of just 5 before you realize it. But if it is a wrong, you will know. Trust us when we tell you that you can trust yourself. And if you find that you can't choose among the 5 alternatives either, check which of 2 very different reasons might apply. The most common reason is that you are still just in agony over losing those 7 other options and are refusing to let them go. If that is the case, then do whatever you need in order to shorten your list. Burn the list of the 7 you rejected, put it all down for a day or 2, then come back to your list of 5 later and treat the list as the list, not the shortened list, but do eventually get going. If, however, you can't act on your list of 5 because you really can't find any preferences or meaningful distinctions between them, then you will. You have just discovered that you have got a can't lose situation on your hands. That means that all 5 options are strategically worthwhile for you with no real distinctive difference. They will all work for you, which leaves you to choose based on secondary considerations. The drive is easier, the logo is cool, the story will be sexier at cocktail parties. The point is that you want to leave the store with some jam. Anyone else want to read? Yeah, otherwise I may go on if anyone wants.
I'll read, Suman.
Yeah. Thank you.
Choose discerningly. Now, once you have done the preliminary work of gathering and narrowing down, and yes, you do want to gather lots of option up front, choice overload notwithstanding, because they please scroll, Maniselvi. Because then you are choosing from the best list. The hard part starts actually choosing. To choose well, we need to understand how our brains work in the process of choosing. Where do good choices come from? And how do we know when we know? Fortunately, we are now living in an era of unprecedented progress in brain research, and we are learning tons about how we think, remember, and decide. In 1990, John Mayer and Peter Salovey wrote the seminal scholarly article launching the concept of emotional intelligence and proposing that in achieving success and happiness, our EQ was as important as, and in many situations more important than, our IQ, measuring our cognitive intelligence. In 1995, the New York Times science writer Dan Goleman popularized their ideas in his book Emotional Intelligence, and a cultural phenomenon was launched. Emotional intelligence is a phrase everybody has heard and has some regard for, but few people fully understand what it means, and fewer still are learning and benefiting from it. It turns out that the part of the brain that is working to help us make our best choices is in the basal ganglia. It's part of the ancient base brain and, as such, does not have connections to our verbal centers. So it does not communicate in words. It communicates in feelings and via connections to the intestines, those good old gut feelings. The memories that inform this choice guiding function in our brains, Goleman refers to as the wisdom of the emotions. By this, he means the collected experiences of what has and hasn't worked for us in life and what we draw upon in evaluating a decision. Our own wisdom is then made available to us emotionally as feelings and intestinally as a bodily gut response. Therefore, in order to make a good decision, we need access to our feelings and gut reactions to the alternatives. Remember that default response to being stuck on a decision, I must need more information. We can now see that that is exactly what we do not need. It is our too noisy brain talking at us constantly as they try to cogitate our way to a good decision, that are getting in the way of connecting to our gut feelings on the decision. It is very important to have good information available to do lots of homework and take lots of notes and make spreadsheets and comparisons and talk to experts, etc., etc., etc. But once that work is done, led by the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which runs the executive functions of coding, listing, and categorizing, we need access to that wisdom center where our well informed emotional knowing can help us discern the better choices for us. We define discernment as decision making that employs more than one way of knowing. We mostly use cognitive knowing, all that good, objective, organized, informational kind of knowing, the sort of knowing that gets you A's in school. But we also have other ways of knowing, including the affective forms of intuitive, spiritual, and emotional knowing. Add to those both social knowing with others and kinesthetic knowing in our bodies. An incredibly skilled therapist friend of Dave's always knew when she was getting to the important issue with the client, her left knee would start to ache. She didn't know why it was her left knee, but over years of attentive practice, she came to trust what her knee had to tell her because she learned to listen to her knee. She was able to make better decisions and better serve her clients by having access to that awareness. The key to step 3 is to make discerning decisions by applying more than one way of knowing, and in particular, not applying just cognitive judgment by itself, which is informed but not reliable on its own. We aren't suggesting making only emotional decisions either. We all have examples of emotions getting people in trouble, though usually those are impulse emotions, and that's a very different thing. So, we are not saying to swap your brain for your heart or your gut. We are inviting you to integrate all your decision making faculties and to be sure you make space so your emotional and intuitive ways of knowing can surface in the process. In other words, don't forget to listen to your knee or your gut or your heart too. Doing this requires that you educate and mature your access to and awareness of your emotional, intuitive, spiritual ways of knowing, or however you may name these affective aspects of our shared humanity. For centuries, the most commonly affirmed path to such maturity has been that of personal practices, such as journaling, prayer, or spiritual exercises, meditation, integrated physical practices like yoga or Tai Chi, and so on. We don't have the space, nor do we claim the expertise to coach you on forming your set of personal practices, but we do encourage you to do so. The reason practices work to give you better access to your best wisdom in discerning a good decision relates precisely to the nature of such insights. Emotional, intuitive, and spiritual forms of knowing are usually subtle, quiet, and even shy. Rarely do people get access to their deepest wisdom by rushing around a few hours before a deadline and talking a lot or surfing the web. It's a slower, quieter thing. Practices are just that, practice. We both practice regularly, month in and month out, especially during our off season when there is no pressure to perform and we can focus on just doing the practice and gaining strength and balance. The time for gaining maturity by practice isn't during the playoffs when things are stressful and demanding. Decision making is stressful, so the best time to prepare for good choosing is when there is no choice at stake. That's when you can invest in your emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity so that those muscles are strong and trained when it's decision or game time. The best time to get ready for step 3 is months or years before the choosing. That means the best time is right now. Today is the best day to start making that investment. Here is one specific technique you can try that emphasizes accessing the wisdom of your emotions. Grok it. Grokking. In the 1960s, sci-fi classics Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert Heinlein invented the word grok to describe a way of knowing that Martians employ. It means to understand something deeply and completely, so much so that you feel you have become one with it. Because of its rarity, Martians don't just understand what water is or drink water, they grok it. Now, grok has entered more common cultural use. I grok that is sort of like I get that, only more so. It's I get that on steroids. When you finally get down to making a choice from your narrowed down list of alternatives and you have cognitively evaluated the issues and emotionally and meditatively contemplated the alternatives, it may be time to grok it. To grok a choice, you don't think about it, you become it. Let's say you have got three alternatives. Pick any one of them and stop thinking about it. Choose to think for the next 1 to 3 days that you are the person who has made the decision to pick alternative A. Choice A is your reality, right? Now, when you brush your teeth in the morning, you do so having chosen A. When you sit at a red light, you are waiting to proceed toward your destination related to living in alternative A. You may or may not actually say things to other people about this, such as, "Oh yeah, I am moving to Beijing in May," because such statements will cause confusion later. But you get the idea. You'll just live in your head as the person in an alternative A reality. You are not thinking about alternative A from your current reality as a struggling choice maker. You are living calmly as one who has chosen A. After 1 to 3 days of this, how long is up to you and a matter of days? Then take at least a day or two off to be your regular self and reset. Then do the same thing with alternative B, then another reset break, and then alternative C. Then one more reset break, and finally a thoughtful reflection on what those experiences were like and which one of those people you might most like to be. This technique isn't guaranteed, no such techniques are, but you can see how the intention here is to allow your alternate forms of knowing, emotional, spiritual, social, intuitive, to have some room to express themselves to you and thereby complement the evaluative cognitive knowing, which, if you are like most of us, is the dominant form of thinking and choosing you rely on. Step 4, let go and move on instead of agonize. Before we discuss the step of letting go, it's important to address, at least briefly, why the fourth step is not agonize. Agonizing looks like this. Did I do the right thing? Am I sure this is really the best decision? What if I would have done option 4 instead? I wonder if I can go back and do it over. If you have no idea what we are talking about here, consider yourself unusually fortunate. Thank your parents for good brain chemistry, DNA, and skip ahead. But if you are like most of us, these are familiar questions. We hear lots of groans of recognition when we say, and the last step is agonize about the decision over and over. Those groans are a signal of a shared humanity in this experience of decision making. The reason we are agonizing is that we care. Please scroll. Yeah. We care about our lives and the lives of others. These decisions matter, and we want to do our best to give the future its best possible chance. We want to make good decisions, but of course, we can't possibly know if we have done so right away. Unknowns are always out there, and none of us can see the future accurately. So, how do we beat this post decision agony thing? It turns out that our mindset about how to make a good decision is as important as which decision we make. It seems obvious that the best way to be happy with a choice is to make the best choice. Simple enough, except it's impossible. You can't make the best choice because you can't know what that best choice was until all the consequences have played out. You can work on making the best choice you can, given what's knowable at the moment. But if your goal is make the best choice, you won't be able to know if you have done it. Your inability to know that keeps you focused on whether or not you did the right thing and keeps you rehearsing the alternatives not chosen. This is called agonizing. And all that rehashing drains satisfaction with the choice you did make and distracts you from getting energetically ahead on the choice you have made. Dan Gilbert at Harvard has looked at this area and demonstrated the effect letting go of your options has in a study evaluating how people made decisions about different Monet art prints. He asked people to rank 5 different Monet prints according to their preference, numbering them from 1 to 5. Whichever prints the subjects ranked number 3 and 4, he said the experimenters happened to have spare copies of and were letting subjects take one home with them. Of course, most of the people took the one they had ranked number 3. Then, interestingly, the experimenters told some of the people that they could swap the one they took for the other one later if they wanted to. And the other people were told that whatever print they took home was it, no swapping. After a few weeks, the experimenters checked back with the subjects. The people who had been told they could swap their prints, even though they had not done so, were less happy with their choices than the people who had chosen the exact same prints but had been told the choice was irreversible. It turns out that reversibility is not conducive to establishing reliable happiness with a decision. Apparently, just the invitation to reconsider and keep your options open makes us doubt and devalue our choice. Interesting. But wait, it gets worse. In his book, The Paradox of Choice, the researcher Barry Schwartz informs us that this nasty little feature of how our brains handle decisions goes even further. When we make a decision in the face of many options, or just while perceiving that there are lots of other options that we don't even know about, we are less happy with our choice. The problem here is not just the options we had and didn't pursue, the options we keep open. It's that mountain of options we never even had time to check out. The perception that there are gazillions of possibilities that may have been great but that we never got to is a powerful force against being at peace with our choice making. Even if we don't know what it was, there must have been a better option out there and we missed it. In the internet powered globalized world, there are always a gazillion options. So we are now more capable of being unhappy with our choices than any generation in history has been. Yay for us! The key is to remember that imagined choices don't actually exist because they are not actionable. We are not trying to live a fantasy life, we are trying to design a real and livable life. If we burdened ourselves with knowing everything about our decisions and discovering every option possible, which of course you should do if you are going to make the best choice, we would never decide. In life design, we know that there are countless possibilities but aren't stymied by that fact. We revel in exploring a few possibilities, then taking action by starting with a choice. Only by taking action we can build our way forward. So let's get better and better at by getting better and better at letting go of the options we don't need any longer. And now you have the confidence to know that you can always get more options in the future, just the way you get these. This is the key to choosing happiness and being happy with our choices. When in doubt, let go and move on. It really is that simple. We are not saying you pretend you don't know about the roads not taken or that you will never again discover something halfway down the path and decide to back up and make a correction. What we are saying is that there is a smarter way to proceed, which will significantly enhance your ability to be successful in implementing your choices and lead to happiness and satisfaction on the journey. Anybody wants to read from here? Who's there?
Yeah, I'll take over.
Okay, Manisa.
I could see a mild, satisfaction in your tone today, reading those paragraphs.
Yeah, it was actually very interesting. I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
3 ways. Yes. Okay,
Yes,
let's
I
discuss
could sense
later.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So do yourself the favor of getting lots of options, then culling the list down to a short and manageable size, 5 max. Then make the best choice that you can give. You can give the time and resources available to you. Get on with it and build your way forward. Note that if you are doing this with prototype iteration, you don't have too much at stake and you will be able to adjust as you go before you really reach a significant investment. And once you make a choice, then embrace your choice and go with it. When the questions that lead to agonizing creep into your head, evict the thoughts and direct your energy into living well the decisions you have made. Pay attention and learn as you go, of course, but don't get caught with your eyes fixated on the rear view mirror of decision regret. This letting go step relies primarily on personal discipline. Keep your reframed understanding of decision making handy and be sure to win the internal argument with yourself when you are tempted to rehash and ruminate. Put in place the support you need to stick with it. Find a life design collaborator or team to help remind you why you made the choice or choices you did. Make a journal entry about your decision and reread it when you get confused. Find what works to enable yourself to enjoy your choices fully. Dysfunctional belief: happiness is having it all. Reframe: happiness is letting go of what you don't need. Letting go by grabbing on. Andy was a top pre-med student, except he wasn't really a pre-med. He was a pre-public health or pre-med tech entrepreneur student. Andy had two primary ideas about his future and one backup, all in response to the same big mission: fix healthcare. Andy could see that the healthcare system needed massive reform, with significant increases in preventive care and wellness management. If we were ever going to fix healthcare's disproportionate drain on the economy and the inaccessibility of medicine to all but the wealthy, he thought there were two ways he could be most effective at making an impact. He could become an influential healthcare public policy advisor, or he could become a medical technology entrepreneur. Though it was out of vogue among his friends to consider getting involved in government and the public sector, Andy could see that only the people adjusting the really big control dials on healthcare were going to be in the position to cause deep change. As far as medical technology, he knew there was a lot happening in that sphere, and new technology could spur behavior changes that could possibly get traction faster since they moved at the speed of the marketplace, not politics. His backup plan was to just be a doctor. It sounded funny to say that way, given how respected the noble role of physician is in our society and especially in his Asian extended family, but that's how he always said it to himself. He wasn't dismissive, he was being honest. His backup plan was an insurance policy in the event he couldn't find a way to make a wide societal impact and needed to redirect his effort to a smaller playing field. He figured that an individual doctor certainly could make an impact within his practice and possibly even his local hospitals and region. Maybe that was a path to offering a shining example of what better healthcare could be. Which way to choose? Actually, that wasn't a tough decision for him. Andy was convinced that the policy route was the most potentially impactful and interesting. So that's the path he was going to pursue. The tough choice was how to do it. Should he go right from undergraduate studies into a master's in public health and then right off to Washington? Or go to medical school and get his MD first, then get his MPH? Andy knew that in the medical culture, MDs are revered, and their counsel on all things medical bears much more weight than that of non-MDs. He didn't actually believe that getting an MD would make him a smarter or more effective policymaker, but he really wanted to make a difference and was willing to consider the 8 to 10 years it would take to enhance his credibility. 4 years to get an MD and 4 to 6 years from residency to licensing. This was a tough decision for him to make. 10 years felt like an incredibly long time to wait to get started on what he wanted to do. Andy kept going around and around in his head but couldn't land on a choice that he felt good about. As soon as he decided to get his MPH now and get started, he would say, but if they don't listen to me at that head start doesn't do any good. And as soon as he had landed on going to med school, he would say, But 10 years is just too long to wait. Who knows what will happen by then? Andy kept chasing his own thoughts in an endless circle. He said he felt as if his brain was stuck on hamster wheel, squeaking around and around all night long. And he stopped thinking about the decision and dropped it. As he did so, he discovered that med school Andy felt better than just policy school Andy. While walking around being the guy becoming a doctor, med school Andy found himself feeling worried about those 10 years, but then thinking, yeah, it's a long time, but I'm really committed to this goal of impacting healthcare. I know that the path I'm taking means I'm doing everything I can to prepare well and give it my best shot. The problems will still be huge a decade from now. I'm not going to miss it. I just don't think I could live with myself if I don't do my best. By contrast, when the question about what if no one pays any attention to me without MD occurred to just policy school Andy, he didn't have a good answer. All he could do was feel lousy about it. So he chose to go to med school and dedicate the next 10 years to becoming a licensed MD, almost solely in order to be a more credible policymaker in the future. Okay, choice made, job done, right. Wrong. And he still had to implement step 4 to let go and move on. And he quickly realized why we gave this name to step 4. The secret to letting go is moving on. Merely letting go is an incredibly hard thing to do. Some would say it's impossible. For example, right now, put anything in your mind's eye except a blue horse. Whatever you do, do not think about us or see a blue horse. No spotted blue horse. No blue unicorn. No blue pygmy pony with a red and white striped saddle and a pink ribbon on its tail. Please keep not seeing a blue horse for the next 60 seconds. Okay, how did you do? If you are like everybody we have ever worked with, you were stampeded by blue horses. That's the problem with letting go. It's more of an inaction than an action. And your brain just hates that. The same way nature abhors a vacuum. So the key to letting go is to move on and grab something else. Put your attention on something, not off something. How was Andy going to let go of the wrong distraction that he was wasting a decade of his life? How was he going to let go of all those images of getting his MPH in just 2 years and jogging the halls of Congress, becoming the hot new policy wonk in healthcare? Andy realized that the way out of it is into it and asked, how can I move on and move into becoming a doctor? As soon as he did that, Andy realized that his med school Andy choice gave him his backup plan for free becoming a doctor. He knew that medical students actually start doing medicine within the first few years of their training, and all the residency years are spent doing clinical work. What kind of specialties would be most relevant to healthcare policy? What medical schools had the strongest ties to Washington and an affiliated MPH program? What kind of care providing institutions would teach him the most? A local clinic. A big hospital, small towns, cities. As soon as he began to embrace what his medical training could contribute and how he could make the most of it, he had tons of ideas and lots of interesting questions to pursue. By imagining his way into moving on, he gave his mind permission to let go, and he came up with lots of ways to have prototype conversations and prototype experiences related to healthcare policy in his role as a medical student and a resident. Andy was a star pupil. No more hamster wheel. Designers don't agonize, they don't dream about what could have been, they don't spin their wheels, they don't waste their futures by hoping for a best past. Life designers see the adventure in whatever life they are currently building and living into. This is how you choose happiness. And really, is there any other choice? So I think we have come to the end of the chapter. Yeah. So let's reflect back on the reading today and what stood out and what really clicked, or I would say what really held your attention? Yeah, please go ahead. Anyone? Do share. I'll just keep this thing on so that it's easier for reference. Yeah, please.
Shall I start, Maniselvi?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So first thing, there are actually three things I would like to mention. First and foremost, the last example of Andy, that is the current discussion going in our family also. My daughter, and she wanted to do some social service and wanted to open a charitable hospital, but then later on, multiple things come up, the finances and all, then how, like it takes 9 to 10 years for MD, and also this is everything going around in our family. But now finally what Andy has done, it is the same thing. She has entered, she's in 4th year now of medical, and now we are also looking for other options how she can pursue her dream. So the thing, like what I say in the chapter also, what I liked most is like whatever choices we are making, no, it is very important to hold to that choice and take the accountability. Own your choice, because there are so many offers, so many things going around, and often we get confused when we start comparing with others. So take the accountability, own your choice, own your decision, and then try to live to that choice, because every path which is unknown na, it holds happiness, it holds a good future. There is nothing that doesn't have a future. Maybe it may be good for me or it may be bad for others, but it has some potential. So trust that process and trust your decision. Definitely we need to take do a lot of research work before picking up any choice. That is important, gathering information, doing all the research work, and networking with others, sharing experiences and getting all information. That is very important before picking a choice. But once we have selected, then we should like prevent ourselves from getting confused. That confusion, it creates self-doubt, and when in self-doubt, everything just we just lose our mental peace, our happiness. And happiness is the thing what we are searching for wherever we want to work. The only motto is to be happy, to live a happy life, to live a contented life. So that is the ultimate requirement or ultimate thing what we aim for. So never forget that and choose accordingly. Whatever we choose, own that choice, own it. This is my takeaway today. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Anjali. And I could sense, you having grown up children's. There will be relatable examples, and thanks for sharing that bit with us. So it makes it very, very real, and we could also understand how we get into dilemmas while making decisions. Yeah. So thanks for starting up the discussion today. Yeah. Anyone else would like to add here?
Yeah, one more important takeaway was regarding discerning decisions. This was before picking up the choices, before taking up the choices. The discerning decision was about that there are more than one way of knowing, other than these doing researches on internet and what we discussed yesterday also. The stress was on yoga, meditation, and doing journaling, because they gives us the training when we have actually to take the decision. They help in that. They become our gut feeling. So I like this how they related it very much. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Suman, for adding that point. Yes, the way I think they have put it in this chapter is, I find it's very fitting, the flow that they created, and then they opened up, and then they brought the EQ point and all that. So the flow, I think the way they had structured this was very good. And the word agonize, we generally don't give this word. I generally don't use the word agonize, but now I have an understanding what that feeling word for that feeling is. And then we have to understand that either you have to move on or let go, right? That's what this chart is also about, and this topic is also about. Yeah. So thanks,
Yeah,
Suman, for adding. Yeah.
regarding letting go, the example of the blue horse was given that if I am giving the description of the blue horse and asking you not to think about the horse, obviously you will be thinking about the horse. Thousand of the horses, blue horses will be there. So letting go and choosing the other path, then that is only the right way. Moving ahead, yes.
Yes. Anybody else would like to share? I think all the reframes today, if we have to just quickly go ahead, all are very quite important, and I feel so dysfunctional belief: to be happy, I have to make the right choice. Reframe is there is no right choice, only good choosing. I think every such reframe today was really important. This jam example was, gives us that why we today become it becomes difficult for us to make decisions, and we keep postponing things because we have lot of choices as well, right? And finally, I think the last one is, yeah, this is the dysfunctional belief: happiness is having it all. Reframe: happiness is letting go of what you don't need, right? So this letting go step relies primarily on personal self-discipline. So basically, how we are thinking, how we pattern to think and react, that will decide how much we are tending toward happiness and allowing ourselves to letting go. So I think these were the key points for me today. Anybody else would like to add?
Honestly, one groking point was given there. In what context it was given? I have forgotten. Groking.
Yeah, Grokking point was there that I understand, I know this, and at a much deeper level. So I get that is a point. So basically, it was more as the knowing that they were saying, right? The
Right.
knowing, this emotional, intuitive, spiritual forms of knowing. This is that knowing, part of knowing, which is talked about as Grokking. And this word is brought out from that science fiction classic Stranger in a Strange Land.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So anybody else would like to add anything, or can we call it a day today? Mansi, you want to add anything?
No, nothing. You guys all covered very well.
Okay. Okay, guys. Then wish you all a happy weekend. Thanks for your time and the reading that we had today. Yeah. So let's reflect on whatever we read this week on the weekend, and maybe we can share, our whatever our thoughts on Monday when we resume reading. I think we will take 3 more days of reading time, and we'll be able to then complete this book. Yeah. So shall we call it a close today?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So thanks everyone. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Thank